True freedom doesn't come from a certain number in the bank account. It doesn't come from a certain achievement or having a career that you've picked. I mean, those things can be important too, but it's really about recognizing that you are free in your head, that no one can tell you what to think, no one can tell you what to value, or what you have to do with your time. Well, they might tell you what you have to physically do with your time, but they can't tell you how to feel about it. They can't tell you how to perceive those things. And with that freedom, with that power, comes responsibility. Shout out to Spider-Man. But yeah, it's up to you to figure out like what you value and how you see and react to things. That's the thing about response ability, how you respond to things, right? It's not about blame. Blame and fault are two totally different things. You have no control over what happens to you and how your life goes externally, but you do control how you perceive it. Like if these horrible things happen to you and you react to it in terms of like feeling down about yourself, feeling like a failure, feeling like hopeless and despair, you're probably framing it in a negative way. And a lot of the times, like when you look back on things, like the worst things that happen to you are actually like kind of a gift because of what you learn from them. Like having a negative relationship and a falling out or being dumped, it might really hurt at that time, and it's and you could look at it, you could let it feed your insecurities, and you could let it make you confirm all the insecurities you had and feel worse about yourself. Or you could frame it as like, how did this happen? What role did I play in having this happen, and how can I change that moving forward? Maybe there wasn't enough communication, or maybe there wasn't enough honesty. Maybe you weren't being honest with that person about how you actually felt, and maybe you weren't being honest to yourself about how toxic they were, and how maybe you're ignoring all that. And when it comes to like how we feel, like a lot of the times it's really just that we're making really bad decisions in terms of our health, like staying up too late, drinking too much alcohol, smoking too much weed, like a lot of that. But a lot, even deeper than that, a lot of the times we can allow ourselves to have really bad ways of looking at things because maybe it feels good in the sense that being a victim feels good in the short term, right? Because then it's like it gives you some sense of importance. It gives you some sense of like not having to take responsibility for it, like, oh, there's nothing I can even do about it. And but and that's fine if you're allowed. That's the freedom thing. You're allowed to think that if you want. You're allowed to live that way. It's only going to harm you. It's only once you realize that, like, I'm tired of that and I want more power over these things in my life, and you are honest with yourself about how you're reacting to things negatively, that you can start to change that. And no one else is going to do that but you. And it's like really freeing when you start to realize that, wow, like a lot of my suffering, a lot of these things that I thought were just inherently negative things about the world and my life were actually based on like how I was reacting to them and how I was viewing them. And if I can start to have a healthier view of those things, then they don't affect me in the same way. And that's really cool because it's like an armor that you have. Your mind is like armor against the world, right? You can't control the sword being swung at you, but you can increase your armor, so that way you are going to take less damage from those things. And if your armor isn't strong enough, you could sit there and complain about how I can't go out and battle because my armor isn't strong enough. Or you can get to work on making that armor better, and that comes from just internal stuff. That doesn't necessarily come from anything you have to do physically. It might be things you have to do physically. Maybe you're too in your own head and need to get into your body a little bit more. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. And you can sit there and suffer and be a victim to those things, or you can try to find a way of dealing with it. And this goes for like virtually anything. I mean, it could be something that you were born with. You look at like the guy who's like the last polio victim or whatever, well, he wasn't the last, probably the last living one, but he was in one of those iron lung machines. And I think if you haven't seen the iron lung machine, like it's basically like just your head is sticking out and it needs to breathe for you because your lungs can't actually work. And so you really can't do much of anything physically. This guy went on to become a fucking author, and he would put a pen in his mouth and go like this and like click the keys on the keyboard to write, which is like super ridiculous sounding, but you know, he chose to take that situation, work with what he had, and, you know, ended up making it sort of the thing that gave his life meaning. And that's up to you. You can either look at things nihilistically and say, you know, it's all hopeless and there's nothing to take away from this, or you can say, that suffering is what gives my life meaning, and I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to learn from that suffering and do whatever I can to make something meaningful out of it. Not necessarily positive. I think that's kind of a negative thing when people tend to look at things in a positive way, always, you know? Sometimes things just happen and they suck, and that's the reality of it, that like bad things happen to you and it's not your fault. It's not your fault that those things happen. And I do think sympathizing with ourselves is a good start. But beyond that, how we react to it, you know, if we let it destroy us or we let it empower us, ultimately is up to us. So, yeah, that's really, only you can do that in your head and in your reactions to things and how you feel about them. And the cool thing about that is, like, no one can take that away from you, right? Like, they can kick you and push you around, but no one can change that outlook you have. And that's actually one of the most, like, frustrating things to other people, but super empowering to you, is that just, like, there's nothing you can do to change my beautiful outlook on things that I choose to take. And yeah, so I think that's it for this video. Peace out.